As salespeople, most of us are aware that when we're speaking to a prospect, we want to dive into their situation or their challenges because most of us know that the more we can bring their pain or frustration to the forefront, the more likely that they're going to buy our products or service. And obviously, this can create some awkward situations. So, I wanted to share some thoughts with you on how we can do this in a more proper and efficient way. Obviously, there is a balance to be had here, and if you are a beginner, then you'll need to dive into the pain first before you need to worry about diving into the pain in the best or the most proper way. So, what this means as a beginner that you need to make sure that you don't underestimate the challenges or the problems that they're facing. This means whenever you're asking about your pain, ask them directly, ask them seriously, and when you are ending your sentence, hold a pause at the end of it to really let it sink in for them. That's important. Now, the other thing, like if you're a little bit more used to this, and now you're going to need to start to doing this properly. So what I would say here is don't overestimate their pain either. So what I hear a lot of salespeople do once they kind of get this tactic of you need to pro their pain is like they start their sales conversation with what's the most challenging or the most frustrating thing about your situation right now. And there are some really high level coaches that recommend this. I personally don't think it's a good idea to do this, except if that's something you need to practice doing, then maybe. But generally speaking, I don't think that's the best way to go about it because you need to build trust first before you can dive deeper into the frustrations and the pain. So, if someone hasn't admitted their problems to you yet, either whether that's on the lead form or whether that's on the call that you had before the sales meeting, I wouldn't assume just out of nothing that they're in a frustrating or challenging situation because they haven't really hinted or admitted that yet. So don't overestimate their pain and don't over suggest. Like if they haven't admitted it themselves or they haven't implied it themselves, you could suggest some things that you see, well, this is what I hear you say, so this might be what's going on. That would be a good way to do it. But don't over suggest, like, don't say things that they haven't implied or that the situation doesn't seem like. Just because, you know, just because you want to get pain, you can't force their situation to be more painful than it is. You could try that, but that would be manipulative. And, you know, that's not ethical, first of all. And secondly, the more sophisticated your buyer, the more they'll be really sensitive to that. And they won't want to deal with you as a salesperson if they feel that. So you need to really find the proper way to do that. So those are two things I gave you. Don't overestimate their pain, and don't over suggest. So I think it's you can make suggestions, but they have to be real and not fabricated. So these are really the first things I would say. What's important here is that we really build depth with every next question we ask. So with every question, we want to get deeper to the core reason of why they are here. So every question needs to expose a little bit more of their pain and frustration with their situation. The challenge here, it's really two things. On the one hand, it's challenging to make the question deeper every time and letting them experience those emotions more every time. Asking those questions is difficult in itself, and building upon that is difficult in itself. The second difficulty of this is that every time we do this, we want to make sure that we keep the trust of our prospects. So this is really the balance here, because we want to get deeper and we want to have a firm process on the one hand. But on the other hand, we also want to make sure that we maintain trust with our prospect. Now, the key here, it's really to try not to create pain that isn't there. It's just about exposing their situation. It's about exposing what they are experiencing. And it's about exposing, if they keep doing what they're doing right now, then why wouldn't that be a good option for them? It's exposing that. It's listening to them first of all, and then analyzing and hearing in how and what they say, the frustration, the emotions they experience, and the challenges they face. And then we mirror that back to them in a realistic way. And so really our job is, it's not to create any pain, it's to be firm, it's to be a mentor for them, a guide for them, and to really just mirror it back to them. And we need to be their strength when they are lacking to take that step themselves. That's really what we're doing. And so how are we going to build that intensity? It's by asking our questions in a serious way, making room for silence. So don't, avoid nervosity at all costs. And when we ask a question about their pain, we want to make sure that we ask it in a serious tone and we have a silence at the end of it. We don't want to and again, we don't want to overestimate or be overly dramatic either. So that's one danger of it, but we still want to be serious about it. So we need to have the right energy for that. And so that's how we really build their pain, or we expose their pain more every time. And we still create that trust with them. So what we really need to do here is we need to pressure them with the truth. And that's an important fact, because we want to mirror the situation back to them as it is in reality. We don't want to overestimate, and we don't want to underestimate either. We want to mirror the truth back to them. Now, what truth are we mirroring back to them is also something we need to consider. And again, what's important here, it's listening to the words they're saying, it's listening to the way they're saying that, and it's listening to the emotions they have when they're saying that. So if they're saying things like, this has been pretty annoying, that's one statement that they make that you could clarify or ask them about. If they say, a statement like, hey, the lead flow hasn't been what I've been expecting. Like that in itself, it hasn't been what I've been expecting, is something you could mirror back to them. But also if they say that sentence in a way that's like, their voice is a bit, they're getting a bit emotional, then be aware of that and be aware in the way that you respond to them, that maybe you can mirror a little bit back to them that, hey, there's been some frustration there, and then you show empathy. So it's about really listening well and then mirroring that back to them and handling that back in a good way. So yeah, I would say that's one of the most important things. Listen to the words that they say, because those are the tangible things you're going to be able to mirror back to them. but then listen to how they say it and the emotions they have while they're saying it, because that's really going to determine the context, and that's going to determine how you're going to be able to mirror that back to them. So that's what I'm saying with giving the truth back to them and pressuring them really with the truth, right? Because that's good pressure. That's productive pressure because it's the truth. Well, what's important here also is that we want to be a leader and a coach for them. We don't necessarily want to be their friend, especially not on a sales call, because we want to get to the root of the issue. And they don't need a friend for that. They need a coach, they need a mentor, they need a leader for that. So I'm not saying like be mean unnecessarily. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying we have to be able to challenge them with the facts. And if we are too friendly, we're not going to be able to do that. So I'm not saying don't have empathy. I'm not saying don't be kind to them. But I'm saying be a leader, be a mentor, be a coach. That's really important. And really, the more advanced you are and the more sophisticated buyers you're dealing with, you're going to have to start relying more on being calm, grounded, and real over creating intensity in your pitch or in the way that you're asking questions. Because the truth is, usually this intensity, it's fabricated. And so really, we just want to, the only thing that really matters at the end of the day is the truth. And so we want to listen to the truth, and we want to really hold space for the type of truth that we want to mirror back to them. And again, I don't mean this in a manipulative way. I just mean this in a selective way, in a way that's productive for us and for them at the same time. So that's really what I would say. If you like this video or you learned something, please check out my next video on sales. Here's my sales framework that is going to guide you through the entire meeting. And yeah, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this. And I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day. Cheers.